Good morning, and thank you for joining us for the monthly rate release call from Department of Economic Opportunity. Today, we're going to be discussing the October 2020 numbers. We have our Chief Economist, Adrienne Johnston, available, and she's going to begin her presentation shortly. If you will, please be sure to keep your phones on mute and to keep your videos off so that we can record this for future viewing. And any questions that you have, please put in the chat and we will answer those at the end. Thank you so much. Adrienne?
All right, good morning. At 10 a.m. this morning, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity released October 2020 labor statistics for the state of Florida and its sub-state areas, including all metropolitan areas, counties, and large cities. These data were produced by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics through a federal-state cooperative agreement with DEO's Bureau of Workforce Statistics and Economic Research. The data were collected through a combination of employer and household surveys, administrative records, and statistical modeling techniques. This morning, I will walk through the details of the data release, starting with the household survey. So just bear with me one moment and I will share my screen with you. All right, so just a reminder, the current population survey is used to estimate Florida's unemployment rate, total labor force, and labor force participation rate under the local area unemployment statistics program. Since these statistics are based on a survey of households, they capture information about individuals, not jobs, and they are calculated by place of residence, not place of work. Florida's seasonally adjusted unemployment rate in October 2020 was 6.5%. This represented 659,000 jobless individuals out of a labor force of 10,109,000. Florida's October 2020 unemployment rate was down 0.7 percentage point from the revised September 2020 rate and up 3.6 percentage points from October 2019. Florida's October unemployment rate was lower than the national rate of 6.9%. Florida's labor force was 10,109,000 in October 2020, down 314,000 from the October 2019 level. This was a decline of 3%. In October 2020, Osceola County had the highest unemployment rate with 10.4%, followed by Miami-Dade County with 8.8%. Wakulla County had the state's lowest unemployment rate, 3.5%, followed by St. Johns County with 3.7%. Job creation data for Florida are derived from the Current Employment Statistics, or CES, survey conducted by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CES survey collects data from up to 20,000 Florida businesses and establishments each month to measure jobs by industry across the state. Since these statistics are based on a survey of employers, they measure counts of jobs, not individuals, and they capture characteristics of employers, such as industry and place of work. Total non-agricultural employment grew to 8,593,200 jobs in October 2020. This was up 51,600 jobs, or 0.6% from September 2020. This figure is down 407,600 jobs from a year ago, an over-the-year decline of 4.5%. Florida's private sector non-agricultural employment was 7,505,200 jobs in October 2020, up 61,100 jobs, or 0.8% from September 2020. Total private employment was down 368,600 jobs from October 2019. This is an over-the-year decline of 4.7%. There are differences in what is included in the employment estimates for these two data series. The labor force employment includes self-employed agricultural workers as well as unpaid workers who worked 15 hours or more in family-operated enterprises and workers who are absent from work without pay during the reference week. While the CES, or total non-farm employment, does not include any of these categories of workers. These factors can contribute to different fluctuations on a monthly basis. Typically, the CES employment, or non-agricultural employment, is lower than the labor force employment by about 11%. In the months of April to July 2020, the gap got smaller, anywhere from 2 to 4%. Then in October 2020, it was back to 9%. Remember, it is better to look at longer-term trends than just a few months. As of October 2020, the labor force employment level is at 93% of what it was in February 2020. and the CES is at 94.7%. These two series are on a similar recovery track. 7 out of 10 major industry sectors in Florida gained jobs over the month. All major industries lost jobs over the year. Leisure and hospitality gained 29,600 jobs over the month, driven by 21,100 jobs gained in accommodation and food services. Professional and business services added 13,000 jobs over the month, and trade, transportation, and utilities added 6,000 jobs over the month. The industries that lost jobs over the month were government, with 9,500 jobs down, education and health services down 400 jobs, and information down 300 jobs. The October 2020 seasonally adjusted local area data show that 19 of the 24 metro areas in Florida had over-the-month job gains. The Tampa metro area gained the most jobs with 5,800, and Cape Coral grew the fastest at a rate of 1.6%. Other metro areas gaining jobs over the month were West Palm Beach with 5,400 jobs and Orlando with 4,600 jobs. That concludes the summary of data released this morning. However, as I've mentioned before, there are other data series that provide valuable context for understanding the current economic recovery. The data series I am showing now comes from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, or BEA, on Florida's real gross domestic product, or GDP. According to the second quarter release, Florida's real GDP decreased by 8.57% from 2020 quarter 1 to quarter 2. That translates into 30.1% annualized rate. The annualized real GDP growth rate of the U.S. was negative 31.4% during the same period. In Florida, the arts, entertainment, and recreation industry had the largest annualized real GDP decline of 91.9%, followed by the accommodation and food services industry with 82.2%, and transportation and warehousing down 63.3%. Florida's finance and insurance industry had an increase of 14.9% annualized growth rate in the second quarter. Data on the third quarter will be released in December 2020. Finally, I'd like to share with you the final calculation for the 2021 duration of benefits for reemployment assistance. Each year, our Bureau calculates the third calendar quarter average unemployment rate for purposes of determining the maximum number of weeks that will be made available in the next year for reemployment assistance benefits. Florida's third quarter unemployment rate is 8.6%. This translates to a total of 19 total weeks for the maximum duration of benefits. That concludes my remarks for this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
As a reminder, please submit your questions in the chat, and as soon as we get those, we'll get that started. Does anyone have any questions this morning for Adrian? Mike, we can answer. Mike Vasalinda asked how many people are actually receiving benefits. We can provide you that information offline. That'll be on the RA employment or RA claims dashboard, and I can send you that link. So Greg asked, what are the indications as we continue to see tourism job losses?
So let me read this. So as we look at the the industry distribution and where jobs are coming back, we're looking at the accommodation and food services, the leisure and hospitality jobs. So we're going to continue, we're seeing those come back in terms of the non-farm payroll numbers. One of the things that we can look at, and I'd be happy to do a dive into this, is looking at reemployment assistance claimants by industry and how that's changing over time. So we know that industry sector, the tourism related industries, were impacted most in terms of claimants. So we can see how that's changing over time and get a response to you related to that. So then that might help answer your question.
Thank you. Nilda Blanco, job gains you mentioned, are they month to month again? Do you understand year over year change but want to verify? So I think what she's asking is, are these job or month over month gains, or are they year over year changes?
So most of what I focused on what were the monthly job changes, particularly at the state level. I did share kind of the monthly overview top level for local areas. We unfortunately don't have a lot of detail on the monthly changes at local areas. Those are over the year changes when you want to start digging into the industry details. But what we're seeing is a trend of gaining jobs over the month. So for the last 6 months, we've added jobs. When you compare us to last year at this time, we are still down over 300,000 jobs compared to October 2019. So we're looking at both. Both are really important, but what we're seeing right now is a trend of gaining jobs. And we actually gained a little bit faster in October than we had in the last few months.
Caroline Glenn asks, how do you expect Disney's December layoffs, more than 18,000 Florida workers, to affect these numbers later this year?
So those numbers will be picked up. It depends on the timing of when those layoffs actually occur. So just a reminder that these surveys are based on the reference week of the 12th each month. So we're picking up any economic activity during that period. It will also depend on other factors on, are there other businesses that start hiring more, and so are they adding to their payroll? So that could kind of negate layoffs in another business. So it depends on a few factors, but ultimately what we're looking for is in the January data release, we'll have the December numbers, and we'll pick up any changes that occurred between the reference week of the 12th in November and then the reference week of the 12th in December at that time.
Sure. Caroline has a follow-up question. Were there any specific occurrences that we believe contributed to the state unemployment rate falling again in October?
So specific occurrences, I can't really point to any of those. I think it's a reflection of a continuation of individuals moving back into the labor market, and we actually saw a decline of unemployed individuals during that period, and so that's really what's driving the unemployment rate going down.
Sure. As a reminder, we're going to answer all reemployment assistance questions at media@deo.myflorida.com. Greg asked, when we say adding jobs, are these brand new jobs or people returning to the workforce?
It's a good question, very good question. So it's net new over the month or over the year. So it could be that if it depends on the period of time that jobs went off payroll. But what you're looking at were the total number of jobs that existed on payroll in 1 month compared to the month after that, or for the year comparison. So it could be people coming back onto payroll since we had several months where the employment declined, but it could also be people coming into new jobs as well. So it's a mix, but it's net new is kind of the key factor there.
Sarah Gerard has 2 questions. How does the unemployment rate take into account who have exhausted their benefits and can't reapply? And do you have an idea about underemployed or people who have given up and how they determine these numbers?
Great question. So for purposes of calculating the unemployment rate, we focus on kind of 2 populations that make up our total labor force. So one is those who are employed, of course, so that's easy, they have a job. Then you have the folks who are unemployed. And so when the survey is collected, we actually ask people to identify if they are unemployed and looking for work. So the key factor when we talk about the unemployment rate is whether somebody is unemployed and looking for work, and then they will be counted in the labor force and therefore counted in the unemployment rate calculation. So that's the key thing to keep in mind. So while claims do factor in to the model, it's not a derivative, it's not a direct relationship there. So it's really about whether or not people are identifying themselves as being in the labor market and looking for work.
Greg asked, household surveys, how many households are surveyed?
It's a great question. I don't have the number right in front of me. So for Florida, it is it's a sample of households where they rotate households in every month, so it's kind of a panel survey. I can find out the exact number for you, but it is conducted by the U.S. Census Bureau. So they're the ones, they actually work very closely with the households to train them on the questions that they're asking and make sure that they're getting quality answers.
Adrian, do we have the number for underemployed or aren't looking for work?
I'm sorry, I missed that earlier. So we have a measure to look at individuals who maybe are marginally attached to the labor force. So that means that they maybe haven't looked for work, but they would take a job if one was offered. I don't have that number in front of me, but I can certainly find that for you.
We'll be happy to follow up with that. Any other questions? Going one more time, any last questions for Adrian Johnston about the October 2020 economic data release? Okay, we'll be happy to provide the underemployed number as well. Mike, we'll get that to you, and anyone else who wants that, just be sure to email us at media@deo.myflorida.com. And yes, this recording will be provided later today on our website. So last call for questions. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email us at media@deo.myflorida.com. Thank you so much and have a great day.